if you're listening right now, help me prove something wrong. My mother said I wouldn't even reach 1,000 subscribers, but I believe stories like this deserve to be heard. Help me show her that these tales matter. Please subscribe to Twilight Spell Book, and let's keep breathing life into stories that were never meant to stay silent. Now, let's continue. Once upon a time, in a kingdom nestled between dark forests and rolling hills, there lived a king who ruled over prosperous lands and peaceful people. His subjects loved him, for he was a just and wise ruler who cared for their welfare and listened to their concerns. The harvests were bountiful, the markets were full, and for many years the kingdom knew nothing but peace and plenty. But then something terrible came to disturb this peace. From the depths of the great forest that bordered the kingdom, a monstrous wild boar emerged. This was no ordinary animal. It was a creature of enormous size and terrible ferocity, with tusks as long as swords and eyes that burned with savage fury. The boar was so large that when it charged through the fields, the very ground trembled beneath its hooves. The beast began to devastate the countryside. It would burst from the forest at dawn or dusk, tearing through the farmers' fields with its massive tusks, destroying entire crops in minutes. It trampled the young wheat and barley, uprooted the vegetable gardens, and left destruction in its wake. What it did not destroy, it ate or spoiled. The farmers worked hard all season, only to see their labor ruined in a single night by this terrible creature. But the destruction of crops was not the worst of it. The boar attacked the livestock as well. It gored cattle and horses with its terrible tusks, leaving them dying in the fields. It killed sheep and goats, scattering the flocks and terrifying the shepherds. Soon, no one dared to take their animals to pasture near the forest, and the shepherds and farmers lived in constant fear. And then, the boar began to attack people. Several farmers who tried to defend their fields were injured, some grievously. One man was gored so badly he died from his wounds. Another lost his leg. Parents kept their children inside, afraid to let them play outdoors. The roads near the forest became deserted, as travelers feared to pass through the area where the wild boar might appear. The king was deeply troubled by the suffering of his people. He called together his advisors and his bravest knights and announced that something must be done. "This creature is terrorizing my kingdom," he declared. "My people live in fear. Their livelihoods are being destroyed. We cannot allow this to continue." He thought carefully about what to do, and then he made a proclamation that was sent out to every corner of the kingdom. "Whoever can kill this wild boar," the proclamation read, "shall receive a great reward. I will give them a chest of gold and the finest lands in my kingdom. They shall be honored as a hero and shall want for nothing for the rest of their days." When this proclamation was read in the villages and towns, many brave men came forward, eager to try their luck. Knights in armor rode into the forest with lances and swords. Experienced hunters set traps and took their positions with bows and spears. Young men seeking glory and fortune ventured into the woods with determination in their hearts. But the wild boar was not easily killed. It was clever and vicious, and it seemed to have an almost supernatural ability to evade capture. The traps that were set for it, it somehow avoided or destroyed. The hunters who tracked it found themselves suddenly confronted by the charging beast, and many barely escaped with their lives. Knights who faced it in combat discovered that their weapons could barely pierce its thick hide, while its tusks could tear through armor as if it were paper. One by one, the would-be hunters returned to their homes, defeated and often injured. Some never returned at all, their bodies found later in the forest, victims of the savage boar. As weeks passed, the beast seemed to grow even bolder, coming closer to the villages, causing even more destruction. The people's hope began to fade. Perhaps, they whispered, this was no ordinary boar at all, but some cursed creature that could not be killed by mortal means. In a village not far from the forest, there lived two brothers. The elder brother was named Friedrich, and the younger was named Hans. They were the sons of a poor farmer who had died some years before, leaving them to make their own way in the world. The two brothers were very different from each other, both in appearance and in character. Friedrich, the elder, was tall and strong, with broad shoulders and powerful arms. He was skilled with weapons and had a reputation in the village as a fierce fighter. He was also proud and ambitious, always seeking ways to improve his station in life. He believed that strength and cunning were the only things that mattered in the world, and he had little patience for weakness or sentimentality. He was not well liked in the village, for he was known to be selfish and harsh, quick to anger, and slow to show kindness. Hans, the younger brother, was smaller and slighter in build, but he was clever and good-hearted. While he lacked his brother's physical strength, he had a sharp mind and a gentle spirit. He was kind to everyone he met, always willing to help a neighbor or share what little he had. The villagers loved Hans for his generous nature and his cheerful disposition. He worked hard at whatever task was before him, and never complained about his lot in life, poor though it was. Despite their differences, the two brothers lived together in the small cottage they had inherited from their father. Their relationship was complicated. Friedrich often treated Hans with contempt, mocking him for his smaller size and gentle nature, calling him weak and soft. Hans, for his part, looked up to his elder brother and sought his approval, though he rarely received it. He loved Friedrich despite his brother's harsh treatment, for he was family, and family bonds ran deep. When news of the king's proclamation reached their village, Friedrich's eyes lit up with ambition. Here was his chance to win fortune and glory, to rise above his humble origins and become a man of wealth and honor. He immediately began to prepare for the hunt. He sharpened his spear until it gleamed, oiled his knife, and practiced his hunting skills in the nearby woods. Hans, watching his brother's preparations, felt a stirring in his own heart. Perhaps he too could attempt this great feat. Perhaps he could be the one to kill the terrible boar and win the king's reward. He mentioned this idea to Friedrich one evening as they sat by the fire. Friedrich laughed mockingly when he heard his younger brother's words. "You?" he sneered. "You think you could kill the wild boar? Look at you. You're small and weak. You've barely the strength to chop firewood, let alone face a beast that has defeated knights and experienced hunters. You would be killed in moments. Don't be a fool, little brother. This is work for a real man, not a weakling like you." Hans felt the sting of his brother's words, but he did not let them discourage him entirely. "Perhaps I am not as strong as you," he said quietly, "but I am clever and I am brave. I could try. The king's proclamation was for anyone, not just for the strong." Friedrich's face darkened with anger. "Listen to me," he said harshly. "You will stay here and tend to our home. I will go into the forest and kill the boar. I will win the king's gold and the fine lands. When I return wealthy and honored, you will remain what you have always been, poor and insignificant. Know your place, Hans. Some men are meant for greatness, and others are meant to serve. You are not destined for glory." His words were cruel and cutting, but Hans held his tongue. He nodded and said no more about hunting the boar. But in his heart, he had not given up on the idea. He simply decided he would say nothing more to Friedrich about it. The next morning, Friedrich set out before dawn with his spear and his knife, heading into the great forest to seek the wild boar. He told Hans he would return when the beast was dead, and the reward was his. He strode off confidently, his head high, certain of his success. After his brother had gone, Hans sat for a while, thinking. Then he too made a decision. He would go into the forest as well and try his luck at hunting the boar. What did he have to lose? If he failed, he would be no worse off than he was now. But if by some chance he succeeded, he could win the reward and finally earn his brother's respect. Perhaps Friedrich would see that strength was not everything, that cleverness and courage could be just as valuable. Hans had no fine spear like his brother, but he had a simple hunting knife and a walking staff. He took these, along with some bread and cheese wrapped in cloth, and set out into the forest by a different path than the one Friedrich had taken. The forest was dark and deep, with ancient trees whose branches formed a thick canopy overhead, blocking out much of the sunlight. The air was cool and damp, smelling of moss and earth and decaying leaves. As Hans walked deeper into the woods, the sounds of the village faded away, replaced by the rustling of leaves, the calls of birds, and the occasional snap of a twig. He moved cautiously, his senses alert, watching for any sign of the wild boar. He had been walking for several hours, following a game trail deeper into the forest, when he heard a sound that made him stop in his tracks. It was a voice, a human voice, calling out from somewhere ahead. Hans approached carefully and came upon a strange sight. There, sitting on a fallen log in a small clearing, was an old man. He was ancient beyond measure, with a long white beard that reached nearly to his waist, and a face so wrinkled and weathered it looked like the bark of an old tree. He wore a simple robe of undyed wool and carried a gnarled walking stick. His eyes, however, were bright and sharp, and they fixed on Hans with keen intelligence. "Good day to you, young man," said the old man, in a voice that was surprisingly strong for someone so ancient. "You are hunting the wild boar, are you not?" Hans was surprised, but answered politely, for he had been taught to respect his elders. "Yes, grandfather, I am seeking the beast that has been terrorizing the kingdom." The old man nodded slowly. "Many have sought this creature, and many have failed. Most have returned injured and defeated. Some have not returned at all. What makes you think you will succeed where so many others have not?" Hans considered this question honestly. "I do not know if I will succeed," he admitted. "I am not the strongest or the most skilled hunter, but I must try. I must know if I have the courage and the cleverness to accomplish this task." The old man's eyes twinkled with what might have been approval. "An honest answer. You do not boast of your abilities or assume success is certain. That shows wisdom." He reached into a fold of his robe and pulled out a small, peculiar spear. It was black as night, and the shaft was carved with strange symbols that seemed to writhe and shift in the dappled forest light. "Take this spear," the old man said, offering it to Hans. "It has special properties. If you throw it at the wild boar with a true heart and honest intentions, it will not miss its mark." Hans hesitated, for the spear looked almost magical, and he had heard tales of enchanted objects that came with hidden prices. "What must I give you in return, grandfather?" he asked carefully. The old man smiled, showing gaps where teeth had once been. "Nothing at all. I give it freely to one who shows humility and honesty. But remember this: the spear will only work for one whose heart is true. If thrown with evil intent, or by one who seeks glory for selfish reasons alone, it will fail." Hans took the spear, feeling its surprising lightness in his hand despite its appearance of solidity. "Thank you, grandfather," he said sincerely. "I will use it well." The old man nodded once more, and then, in the way of mysterious figures in ancient stories, he simply vanished. One moment he was there, on the fallen log, and the next he was gone, leaving no trace that he had ever been present, except for the black spear in Hans's hand. Hans stood for a moment in wonder, then continued his journey deeper into the forest, the magical spear giving him renewed confidence. He walked for another hour, following the game trail, looking for signs of the wild boar's passage. He found them soon enough. Trees with bark torn away by savage tusks. The ground churned and muddy from the creature's hooves, and scattered bones of animals it had killed and partially eaten. As the afternoon sun began to slant lower through the trees, Hans heard a sound that made his blood run cold. A loud snorting and grunting, followed by the sound of something large moving through the undergrowth. He froze, gripping his magical spear tightly, his heart pounding in his chest. Then he saw it. The wild boar emerged from behind a massive oak tree, and it was even more terrifying than he had imagined. It was enormous, easily as tall as a horse at the shoulder, with a massive body covered in coarse black bristles. Its tusks were yellowed and curved, each as long as a man's forearm and sharp as daggers. Its small eyes were filled with rage and hunger, and foam dripped from its jaws. When it saw Hans standing there, It lowered its massive head and pawed the ground, preparing to charge. For a moment, fear nearly overwhelmed Hans. Every instinct told him to run, to flee as fast as his legs could carry him. The beast was monstrous, and he was just a poor farmer's son with a spear he barely knew how to use. But then he remembered the old man's words. The spear would fly true for one with an honest heart. He was not here for selfish glory. He was here to help his people, to stop this creature from causing more suffering. And yes, to prove to himself and to his brother that courage came in many forms. Hans stood his ground. As the wild boar charged toward him with terrifying speed, the ground shaking beneath its weight, Hans raised the black spear. He took aim at the creature's heart, said a brief prayer, and threw the spear with all his strength. The spear flew from his hand as if it had a will of its own. It shot through the air like a bolt of black lightning, straight and true, and struck the wild boar directly in the heart. The beast's charge faltered. It took 2 more stumbling steps forward and then crashed to the ground with a thunderous impact that shook the trees. The terrible wild boar was dead. For a long moment, Hans could only stand there, trembling with relief and disbelief. He had done it. He, the younger brother, the one everyone called weak and insignificant, had killed the wild boar that had defeated so many others. He approached the creature cautiously, hardly able to believe what had happened. But there was no doubt. The beast was truly dead. The magical spear still embedded in its chest. Hans pulled the spear free and wiped it clean. He looked up at the sky and saw that evening was approaching. He would need to return to the village and report what he had done. But first, he decided to rest for a moment and eat some of the bread and cheese he had brought. He sat down on a nearby log, still in sight of the dead boar, and began to eat, his hands still shaking slightly from the encounter. He had just finished his small meal when he heard footsteps approaching through the forest. He looked up and saw his brother, Friedrich, emerging from the trees on the other side of the clearing. Friedrich stopped short when he saw the enormous dead boar, his eyes widening in shock and disbelief. "Hans?" Friedrich called out, seeing his younger brother sitting there. "What? How?" He approached the dead creature, walking around it, examining it. There was no doubt it was dead. He could see where the spear had pierced its heart. He looked at his younger brother with an expression that was difficult to read: surprise, disbelief, and something else, something darker. "I killed it, brother," Hans said, standing up with a smile. He was happy and eager to share his triumph. "A magical spear was given to me by an old man in the forest, and it flew true. The terrible boar is dead. The kingdom is safe. We must go to the king and claim the reward." But Friedrich did not smile. As Hans spoke, something ugly twisted in Friedrich's heart. All day he had hunted through the forest without even catching a glimpse of the boar. He had been so certain that he would be the one to kill it, to win the glory and the gold. And now his little brother, the weakling he had mocked and belittled, had succeeded where he had failed. The thought was unbearable. Friedrich's mind began to race with dark thoughts. If Hans went to the king with news of his victory, Hans would receive all the reward and all the honor. Hans would be the hero, and Friedrich would be forgotten, just another failed hunter. Hans would have lands and gold, while Friedrich would remain poor. The injustice of it, that his weaker, smaller brother should rise above him, was more than Friedrich could stand. And then a terrible idea began to form in his mind. They were alone in the deep forest. No one knew they were here. No one had seen Hans kill the boar. If something were to happen to Hans, if Hans were to disappear, then Friedrich could claim the kill as his own. He could take the boar to the king himself and receive the reward. No one would ever know. It was a monstrous thought, an evil thought. But once it had entered Friedrich's mind, it grew and festered there. His ambition, his pride, his jealousy. All of these dark feelings combined to overcome any love he might have had for his brother. He made his decision. "Brother," Friedrich said, his voice carefully controlled, "this is wonderful news. You have done an amazing thing. Come here and embrace me. Let us celebrate together." Hans, trusting and happy, came forward with open arms, ready to embrace his brother. He never saw the knife that Friedrich had pulled from his belt. He never suspected that his own brother would betray him. As Hans reached him, Friedrich struck. With one swift, brutal motion, he plunged his knife into Hans's back, directly into his heart. Hans's eyes went wide with shock and pain. He looked at his brother's face and saw the cold calculation there, the lack of remorse. And in his last moments, he understood that he had been murdered for his success. "Brother, why?" Hans gasped, blood on his lips. But Friedrich had no answer for him, or at least none that he was willing to speak. He simply withdrew the knife and let Hans fall to the ground. Hans died there in the forest clearing, beside the dead boar he had killed, betrayed by the brother he had loved. Friedrich stood over his brother's body, breathing heavily, the full weight of what he had done beginning to sink in. He had killed his own brother. He had committed the ultimate betrayal. For a moment, doubt and horror washed over him. What had he done? But then his ambition reasserted itself. It was done. There was no taking it back now. He had to dispose of the body and claim his reward, or his brother's death would be for nothing. He would not let guilt stop him now. Friedrich looked around the clearing and saw, not far away, a small stone bridge that crossed a stream. The stream was not large, but it ran deep and swift. Beneath the bridge, there was a hollow in the earth where water had eroded the soil over many years. Friedrich dragged his brother's body to the bridge. It was hard work, for Hans, though smaller than Friedrich, was still a grown man and heavy in death. But Friedrich was strong, and desperation gave him added strength. He pulled the body under the bridge and buried it in the hollow there, covering it with soil and leaves and stones until no trace could be seen. The stream burbled on, indifferent to the crime that had been committed on its banks. When he was finished, Friedrich returned to the clearing and examined the dead boar. He would need to get it back to the village somehow. It was far too large to carry, but he could cut off the head as proof of the kill and drag that back. He set to work with his knife, hacking away at the tough hide and muscle until he had severed the boar's massive head from its body. As the sun set, Friedrich emerged from the forest, dragging the boar's head behind him on a makeshift sled he had constructed from branches. Villagers came running when they saw him, amazed and excited. Friedrich told them his story, how he had tracked the boar for hours, how he had finally confronted it in single combat, how he had killed it with his spear. The villagers celebrated him as a hero. "Where is your brother Hans?" someone asked. "He stayed home to tend to our cottage," Friedrich lied smoothly. "This was my quest alone." The next day, Friedrich went to the king's castle with the boar's head as proof of his deed. The king was delighted and relieved. The terrible threat to his kingdom was ended at last. True to his word, the king gave Friedrich a chest of gold and deeded to him a fine estate with rich lands. Friedrich was honored in a great ceremony, proclaimed a hero, and given a position of respect in the kingdom. Friedrich moved into his new manor house, leaving behind the small cottage where he and Hans had lived. He dressed in fine clothes and ate rich food. He was waited on by servants and invited to dine with nobles. He had everything he had always wanted: wealth, status, respect, but he could not enjoy it. At night, when he lay in his soft bed in his fine manor house, Friedrich could not sleep. His brother's face haunted him, that look of shock and betrayal in Hans's eyes as he died. Friedrich tried to push the memories away, tried to convince himself that what he had done was necessary, that Hans would have wasted the reward anyway, that he deserved it more. But the guilt gnawed at him like a rat, giving him no peace. Years passed. Friedrich remained wealthy and respected, though those who knew him well said he had become grim and joyless, prone to dark moods and silent brooding. He never married, never seemed to find happiness in his fine estate. He aged before his time, his face becoming haggard and lined with stress and sleepless nights. No one ever asked about Hans. People forgot that Friedrich had ever had a brother. Those who had known Hans assumed he had left the village to seek his fortune elsewhere, as many young men did. The secret of his murder remained buried under the bridge in the forest, known only to Friedrich and to the indifferent earth that covered his bones. But truth, as the old tales tell us, has a way of revealing itself. What is buried will not always stay hidden. What is done in darkness will eventually come to light. One day, many years after Hans's murder, a poor shepherd was walking across the stone bridge in the forest, driving his small flock of sheep before him. The stream had run low that season due to a summer drought, and the ground beneath the bridge was more exposed than usual. Something caught the shepherd's eye, something white gleaming in the exposed soil. Curious, the shepherd climbed down to investigate. He began to dig in the earth with his hands, and soon he uncovered what appeared to be a bone. It was long and smooth and white, a human bone, though the shepherd did not realize this at first. He pulled it from the earth and examined it, wondering what it might be. The shepherd was a simple man, but he had learned to make use of whatever he found. This bone was straight and hollow, and he thought it might make a good mouthpiece for a horn. He took it home with him and spent an evening working on it, drilling small holes and shaping it, fashioning it into a simple flute or whistle. When he was finished, he raised the bone flute to his lips and blew into it, expecting to hear a simple musical note. But what came out was not music at all. To his utter shock and amazement, the bone began to sing. Not just to make sounds, but to sing words, a clear, eerie voice that seemed to come from the bone itself. The shepherd nearly dropped the bone in his fright, but he was too stunned to move. The bone sang its song, and these were the words it sang. "Oh, friend, you blow upon my bone. Long have I lain beneath the stone, by the bridge in the forest deep and dark, where my brother pierced me through the heart. He claimed the boar's head as his own, while I lay buried, cold as stone. Now my truth shall be made known. This shepherd blows upon my bone." The song never changed, never faded, never grew silent. It was as fresh and clear after 100 years as it had been the day the shepherd first found the bone beneath the bridge. Time could not diminish it. The bone would not forget. The dead would not be silenced. And whenever people heard the story or saw the bone, they would remember Hans, the humble young man who slew a monster and was murdered for his courage. They would remember that in the end, despite the brothers' attempts to bury the truth along with the body, justice had been served. The guilty had been punished, and the innocent had been vindicated, even beyond death. In villages throughout the kingdom and beyond, parents would tell their children the story of the singing bone. "Remember," they would say, "that you cannot hide evil. You cannot bury the truth so deep that it will never resurface. Like Hans's bone, the truth will find a voice. It will sing out. It will be heard. So live your life with honesty and integrity. For in the end, all secrets are revealed, and justice will be done." And the children would listen, wide-eyed, imagining the bone singing its accusation in the king's hall, imagining the murderer's face as his crime was exposed, imagining the shepherd's surprise when he first heard the bone speak. They would go to sleep that night thinking about truth and justice and the importance of doing right, even when it seemed no one was watching. For that is the true power of the old tales. They teach us, they warn us, they remind us of what matters. And the story of the singing bone, dark though it is, carries within it a light, the light of truth that cannot be extinguished, the light of justice that cannot be permanently denied, the light of a voice that will not be silenced, even in death. The bridge where Hans was buried became a place of pilgrimage. People would travel there to see where the bone was found, to stand at the spot where murder was done and justice was eventually revealed. Someone planted a tree there, a willow that grew tall and strong beside the stream. People called it Hans's tree, and they would sometimes leave flowers or small tokens at its base, honoring the memory of the young man who had been brave enough to face a monster and innocent enough to trust his brother. The stream that ran beneath the bridge was said to have special properties. Some claimed that if you drank from it, you would be unable to tell a lie for 7 days. Others said that if a guilty person washed their hands in its waters, the water would turn red as blood. These stories were probably not true, but they showed how the legend had grown and spread, becoming part of the landscape itself, woven into the very fabric of the kingdom. As for the wild boar, its story too became part of the legend. Some said it had been no ordinary boar at all, but a cursed prince, and that Hans, by killing it cleanly and quickly with the magical spear, had actually freed the prince's soul from its animal prison. Others claimed the boar had been a demon sent to test the kingdom, and that only a pure-hearted person could have defeated it. Still others insisted it was simply a very large and very dangerous animal, and that the magic came not from the boar, but from the spear the old man had given to Hans. The truth of these matters was lost to time. But what was not lost was the central truth of the story: that Hans had succeeded through courage and honesty, that Friedrich had murdered him through jealousy and ambition, and that in the end, truth had prevailed over deception, and justice had been served, though it took years and required a miracle, a singing bone, to accomplish it. The old man who had given Hans the magical spear was never seen again in those parts. Some said he was a wizard who traveled the world seeking out worthy souls to help. Others claimed he was an angel sent by God to ensure that the boar was killed by someone deserving. A few insisted he was death himself, testing mortals to see who was worthy of life and who had already surrendered their humanity to greed and evil. Whatever he was, his gift to Hans had been both a blessing and a curse. It had allowed Hans to accomplish a great deed, but it had also sparked his brother's murderous jealousy. Yet perhaps that jealousy had always been there, dormant, waiting for the right circumstances to reveal itself. Perhaps Friedrich had always been capable of murder, and the boar's death was simply the catalyst that brought his true nature to light. These were questions philosophers and priests debated in the kingdom for generations. Was evil something that existed in people from birth, or was it created by circumstances? Could a good person be turned evil by jealousy and ambition, or did those feelings simply reveal an evil that was already present? The story of the two brothers provided no easy answers, but it gave people much to think about. What was clear was that choices mattered. Friedrich had made a choice in that moment in the clearing. He could have rejoiced in his brother's success. He could have shared in the glory and the reward. He could have let Hans go to the king and been proud to be the brother of a hero. But instead, he chose murder. He chose betrayal. And that choice defined him, destroyed him, and ultimately led to his own death and disgrace. Hans, too, had made choices. He had chosen to be kind and humble. He had chosen to help the old man, or at least to speak to him honestly and politely. He had chosen to hunt the boar not for glory, but to help his people and prove his own courage. His choices had led to his death, yes, but they had also led to his vindication and immortalization in story and song. His name was remembered with honor, while Friedrich's was remembered with shame. And so the tale of the singing bone continued to be told, year after year, generation after generation. It was told in castle halls and peasant cottages, in city taverns and country firesides. It was told to children as a bedtime story, and to adults as a cautionary tale. It was painted on murals and woven into tapestries. It was sung in ballads and recited in poems. The bone itself remained in the castle, carefully preserved, occasionally displayed, always revered. And whenever someone looked upon it, they were reminded of the young man whose life was cut short by betrayal, and whose voice, through this bone, had refused to remain silent. They were reminded that truth is powerful, that justice matters, and that even the humblest person can make a difference if their heart is true. As the centuries passed and the kingdom changed, as dynasties rose and fell, as castles crumbled and new ones were built, as the old ways gave way to the new, the story of the singing bone endured. It became one of those eternal tales that transcend their time and place, speaking to something fundamental in the human experience: our hunger for justice, our horror at betrayal, our belief that truth matters and will ultimately prevail. And perhaps, in the deepest sense, this is why the old tales survive. Not because they are entertaining, though they are. Not because they are well crafted, though many are. But because they speak to truths that do not change, even as the world around us transforms. The truth that evil should not go unpunished. The truth that the innocent deserve justice. The truth that a voice crying out for truth will eventually be heard. So sleep now, dear listener, and let this tale remind you of the power of truth and the importance of justice. Let it remind you that betrayal has consequences, that guilt cannot be buried forever, and that even when all seems lost, truth has a way of singing out, clear and strong, impossible to ignore. Remember Hans, who faced his fear and slew a monster. Remember the singing bone, which would not let him be forgotten. And remember that in the great tapestry of justice, every thread matters, every voice counts, and truth, in the end, will always find a way to be heard. Good night, and may your dreams be peaceful, secure in the knowledge that justice, though sometimes delayed, will ultimately prevail, and that truth, like a bone singing in the darkness, cannot be silenced forever. In time, the singing bone became more than just a relic or a curiosity. It became a symbol of the kingdom's commitment to justice and truth. When new judges were appointed, they would swear their oaths before the singing bone, promising to seek truth as diligently as it had revealed truth. When witnesses gave testimony in difficult cases, they would sometimes be asked to touch the bone and repeat their words, for it was believed that no one could lie while touching the bone that had sung truth. Whether these beliefs were justified or merely superstition, they showed how deeply the story had embedded itself in the culture of the kingdom. The singing bone was not just about one murder and one betrayal. It had become about all murders, all betrayals, all struggles between truth and lies. Artists and poets continued to find new meanings in the tale. Some saw it as a story about the relationship between brothers, about how jealousy can poison even the closest bonds. Others read it as a tale about class and ambition, about how the desire to rise in the world can corrupt even good people. Still others interpreted it as a story about the voice of the oppressed, how even those who are murdered and buried can still make their voices heard if truth is on their side. All of these interpretations had merit, for the greatest stories can be read in many ways. The tale of the singing bone was rich enough, complex enough, true enough to sustain multiple meanings without being diminished by any of them. And so, the story lives on, as the best stories do. It lives in the telling and retellings, in the new meanings each generation finds within it, in the lessons it continues to teach. It lives in the bone itself, still preserved, still capable of singing its accusation if anyone should blow upon it. But most of all, it lives in the hearts and minds of those who hear it and take its message to heart. Be honest. Be humble. Do not let jealousy and ambition overcome love and decency. Trust that truth matters and justice will come, even if it takes time. And know that your actions, for good or ill, will echo long after you are gone, just as Hans's courage and Friedrich's betrayal echo still in this ancient tale. Sleep well, dear listener, and carry these truths with you into your dreams and into the waking world beyond. For the story of the singing bone is not just a tale from long ago. It is a story for all times, including our own. Its truths are eternal. Its lessons are timeless. And somewhere, in a castle in a kingdom that may or may not still exist, there is a bone in a silver reliquary, waiting to sing its song of truth one more time, waiting to remind us all that justice matters, that truth prevails, and that even in death, the innocent will not be silenced. Good night, dear listener. Good night.